Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers, to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me is Scott Reynolds from pewterreport.com as well, and we are here to talk about a million different things in what could be an offseason of change or complete stability for the Bucs, but the truth will probably be somewhere in between, Scott. We've got no shortage of topics for today's show. The season might be over, but the topics, as they always seem to with the Bucs in the last couple of years, are nonstop right now for Tampa Bay.
This is going to be an action-packed hour, probably hour plus. Buckle up, get ready, because all hell's about to break loose in Tampa.
That's right. There is a million things up in the air, and which direction will they go? What are we hearing? What do we think is going to happen? What are we deducing from what we're hearing around with the Bucs, around the NFL? We're going to talk about all of it today on the show. We'll get into each case-by-case situation as we look at Byron Leftwich, Todd Bowles, Tom Brady, Bruce Arians' situation, Kevin Garver, Larry Foote. Probably thinks Chris Godwin even. I know a lot of people want to know about Chris Godwin free agency. Will that be affected by anything that's happening? We'll talk about all of it on today's show. So get your questions ready, get your thoughts ready, get your super chats ready, and we'll be ready to do it with you here. But first, we got to talk about our friends over at Celsius, about the title sponsor of all Pewter Report podcasts, title sponsor of our show. Celsius powers active lives every day with essential functional energy. I'm rocking the peach vibe. You've had a 2 Celsius day, Scott? 2 Celsius kind of day?
This should have been a 2 Celsius day for me. Been burning the midnight oil here, but no, only 1 Celsius usually does the trick. So this is not a knock on Celsius whatsoever. Since Sunday, we have been going absolutely nonstop, have we not, John Ledyard?
We have been going about as nonstop as
nonstop.
I don't even recall like the times that I've slept. Like I have, but it's just been like you're down and then like it's like you wake back up and like you nod it off.
And I'm about 20 years older than you, so I needed 2 Celsius today. This is my mistake, not Celsius, but I tried the grape today, John. I got the variety pack. You know, I love orange, still my favorite go-to, but I had the grape today because I got the variety pack. Kids wanted some different flavors, and boy, flavors they are, right? I mean,
they've got them.
They do. And so I had the grape, the wild berry came in there, the strawberry guava. Those are my daughter Jillian's favorite. She loves those. I love the sparkling Fuji apple pear. John, you're a big fan of the peach vibe, you said. And there's just a whole assortment of flavors. There's even a cola flavored. So
yes, and one of my colleagues in the field who covers the Vikings was like, it's crazy how good the cola flavor is. Like it was like, I can't believe how good it is. And he's a drinker of some other caffeinated beverages.
They nailed it. Well, and then the great thing is there's no sugar and no preservatives in here. And so what that means, John, is you get all the flavor, all the energy you need, but none of the crash. And that's the important thing when you're drinking an energy drink. You don't want to have that crash a couple hours later. And that's what Celsius allows you to do. Have the energy without the crash. Get your hands on some Celsius, folks. Go to the Pewter Report website, pewterreport.com. Click on those Celsius banner ads. When you do, they'll take you to store locator, and you can find out where Celsius is located in your area. Go grab a couple cans, try them. Health and fitness stores, grocery stores, convenience stores. Then once you find the ones you like, go to Amazon, buy them in bulk. They'll ship them right to your house, and you save some money with the subscribe and save.
Right. Absolutely great deal. No question about it, Scott. Let's dive in. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's talk about Byron Leftwich first. Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator, last night, it's been long assumed, and we've kind of indicated on the show that the assumption has been he's probably going to be the front runner in Jacksonville.
Right.
So, to some degree, we thought maybe it would depend on what happened with Trent Baalke, their general manager. It doesn't look like Baalke's going to get fired at this point. So Byron Leftwich still appears to be the front runner. In fact, appears to be imminent that he will become the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach.
Yes.
Last night, reports started to surface from a couple Jaguars local sources, and then if slowly branched in Ben Albright, who kind of does this. He's in Denver, but he kind of does this naturally, is confirmed. Almost every Jacksonville local person, or a lot of them, have kind of confirmed that this thing is closed. Rick Stroud, Tampa Bay Times, was talking about it. We've talked about it. You know, this thing is on its way to happening in Jacksonville with Byron Leftwich, unless something crazy happens and things get shook up, right, Scott?
Yeah, I agree. And I think what you're seeing now is because there's 2 candidates right for this job, I think they're trying to squeeze Byron Leftwich and saying, hey, listen, we've got another candidate here and we want you for this price. So let's go ahead and get this deal done. And Byron's saying, I want, what my agent thinks I'm worth. And I think that's what the holdup is right now, because all of the reports we've seen, whether it's local or national media, either local from Jacksonville or the national folks, Schefter, the rap reports, etc., have said it's contract details. Well, contract details usually are two things: money and control, right? That's typically what it is. And usually the head coach has control over the coaching staff and over the 53. Usually GMs have control over the entire 90-man roster heading into training camp and draft, say, and things like that. So there might be some of that, but I think it's boiling down to contract numbers. So once the Jacksonville Jaguars finally make it official, that's what we're expecting. It really could, John, start a chain reaction in Tampa, because a couple of these coaches are expected to leave. One of them is Larry Foote, the outside linebackers coach, who the Bucs would love to have replace Todd Bowles if Bowles leaves for a head coaching job. And right now, I don't know that Todd Bowles is going to get one. What do you think?
Yeah, it really sounds that way. You've talked to some people. I've talked to some people in the know. We kind of came together and compared notes, and both of us kind of got the impression from those that we talked to that Todd Bowles has a shot in Las Vegas, but is probably not the top candidate in Las Vegas right now. Obviously, things could change. Their order of priority could get shuffled based on whoever they hire as general manager. That has not happened yet. John Spytek, VP of Player Personnel for the Bucs, is also going to interview, or they've requested permission to interview him. Bowles flew to Las Vegas today. He will interview tomorrow with the Raiders for their head coaching position, and Spytek is going to probably be in the mix there too. So maybe the Raiders are envisioning a potential pairing of those two. We don't really know at this point, but it doesn't sound like, from the people that you and I have talked to, the Bulls is at the top of that list. And right now, that's the list. Like, there really isn't, like, it's Raiders or back to Tampa Bay for Todd Bowles, because it sounds like Chicago and Minnesota are going to go in other directions based on the GMs they hired. And obviously the Jaguars are zeroing in on Leftwich. The only other place he's interviewed is Las Vegas. Now, it's weird, but the Saints, they have really not started yet. So we know that Dennis Allen and Aaron Glenn are kind of the front runners there. It would be shocking if Bowles got interviewed there. He has not a lot of success against them.
I think Dennis Allen has proven to be better defensive coordinator in those head-to-head matchups, right?
So I don't think that's going to happen, but it is worth noting that one just opened up. So it doesn't. It seems like it's Raiders or back to Tampa for Bowles, and I don't think it's going to be the Raiders.
So the problem really is timing, because if, let's say, for example, if Bowles were to leave, it's not going to be till later in the week if it happens, and John and I at this stage don't think it's going to, but we expect that Byron Leftwich will get the Jacksonville Jaguars job, and then if that is indeed the case, we expect Larry Foote, the outside linebackers coach, to go with him and be the defensive coordinator. Now the Bucs would like him. The problem is just the timing of it, because as it stands right now, the Buccaneers can't say, Larry, we want you to stay and be the defensive coordinator. And he would say, well, you already got one. Todd Bowles.
And here's the other part about this with Bowles, Scott. From what I've heard, it's not everybody loves Todd Bowles. Everybody around the league loves him. He gets a lot of respect around the league. I did think the number of teams, and I know he just got 4 interviews, so maybe this is ridiculous to say, but he got interviews last year too. But I think the number of teams that see him as like a head coach material are diminishing right now. I would guess he stays with Tampa Bay, and regardless of what the defense does, maybe if they're like number 1 in the league or something crazy, next year with their schedule, that'd be nuts. But I think you're going to start to see less interviews for Todd Bowles, which means he either stays as the Bucs DC for a while and then succeeds Arians, or
possibly
maybe he doesn't do either. But I do think you're going to see, not only takes one team, but I don't think you're going to see the volume of interviews you've had the last couple of years for Bowles again in the future. It's not that he interviews and like goes in as unprepared. I just think he doesn't, based on what I've heard and what I've been told, I don't think he goes in interviews and wows people.
Correct.
And that's
he's not an overly charismatic guy. And if you watched him in these press conferences, that's kind of what you see is what you get. I've asked Buccaneer players before about Todd Bowles, and I said, is what you see what you get in the press conferences? And they said, yeah, he's pretty straightforward, although he's funnier in person, right? He doesn't really let his humor come out in these press conferences. He only talks to the media for like 8 to 12 minutes a week once a week. So we don't really get an entire glimpse of Todd Bowles, but
Right.
sometimes he lets his guard down at training camp or things like that. But he comes across as kind of, vanilla. He's kind of what you see is what you get, not the most energetic, charismatic person. I mean, for example, compare him to Raheem Morris, former Bucs coach, who just has an effervescent personality. Like Raheem Morris glows. He doesn't stand out in a room. He glows, right? That was the attraction why the Buccaneers hired him at age, 32, 33, however old he was back in 2009, just because of his charismatic personality, in addition to his defensive acumen and how he was brought up and raised under Monty Kiffin, Mike Tomlin, et cetera.
Right.
So the thing with Bowles is, and part of this is, and Adam Gase found out firsthand in New York, you got to win the media, right? You got to win the press conference, right? The media, the national media gets you hired, the local media gets you fired. That's typically how it goes for coaches. So there
and
is
Bowles
a
is
public
likable.
relations
He's just
element.
not like he's not like the kind of personality that gets everybody, well, wow, look at this guy. Like he's just,
players love him,
right?
But
exactly. I think,
but do owners love him, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is just rumor and speculation and conjecture, but I've heard this. I'm just going to relay it. I don't know how much stock I put into it, but it seems like the Raiders are possibly waiting to see if Jim Harbaugh would leave Michigan after the recruiting cycle to go there. That's why they're kind of dragging their feet with looking for Rich Bisaccia's replacement, is because that's the eye on the prize. I think Harbaugh, being a Michigan man, not just a head coach, but a alum, does not want to leave Michigan in the lurch. So I think if he's going to leave the Wolverines, it would be after the recruiting cycle is done, and then he might go to the Raiders. I think that's what. And listen, if you're in Vegas and you go from John Gruden, which was the sexy hire a couple of years ago, and you're Mark Davis, you want another superstar coach. Out there. And I think that's what's happening.
He's going to be paying, though. I mean, he just doesn't care about it twice, That is also what I heard, Scott. Now, I think a lot of it's like gut feeling with people. I don't know how much of it's like, we definitely heard this is going to happen. I think it's just like that's what the Raiders want. I don't think Harbaugh's indicated to them a whole lot from what I've heard. But I think a lot of people think that they're waiting it out to see that. But in the meantime, there was this lull, and then they're like, all right, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Let's start interviewing people again. And so now it's like, Bowles, just
to make it seem
GMs today.
Just make it seem like we're doing something, right? We're trying to like get the Raiders a head coach and maybe a GM. Exactly.
And the GM is the other part of it for the Raiders. Like, who would they pair with Harbaugh? There's some talk that it could be Ed Dodds, but a lot of people are kind of, from what I've heard in the interview process, maybe even been rubbed the wrong way a little bit by Dodd's personality. And so obviously things didn't go well with him in Chicago. He kind of withdrew his name. And so anyway, we'll see what happens with the Raiders. There's a lot up in the air in terms of that one now.
Okay, so let's stay with the coaching here for a second. We're going to talk about quarterbacks too, and maybe, what lies ahead for the Buccaneers there.
Let me ask you this. The first thing we want to say too is that Arians has said if Leftwich leaves, which looks imminent now, Arians would probably call plays again. So people in the chat, I see them talking about like, is Byron a significant loss, or is he not a significant loss? I have some thoughts on this, but I wanted to hear your opinion. Like, do you think it's a significant loss to lose Byron Leftwich for the Bucs? Do you think it shakes things up? And even, I know we kind of probably agree on this, but do you think it has any effect on Brady's decision for whether to return or not?
I don't think so, just because when Tom Brady decided to come to Tampa, Byron Leftwich had been on the job 1 year, right? Now he worked with Byron these last 2 years. But Byron Leftwich had only been the offensive coordinator in Tampa under Bruce Arians for the 2019 season. That was with Jameis Winston. 5,000 yards, but 31 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. So having said that, I think that the allure for Brady was working with Arians, the quarterback whisperer. This is a guy that has 13 years of play calling experience dating back to Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Indianapolis for one season, and then all of the time from 2013 to 2017 with the Cardinals. So I think that is where the comfort level is. Now, I think if Arians did not call plays, let's say, and this is another shoe that could drop too, if Kevin Garber, the wide receivers coach who the Buccaneers like, and they view him as a potential, we wrote about this on PeterReport.com, there's a story up there. there could be a bidding war for Kevin Garber
Mhm.
as the offensive coordinator. The Bucs want to keep him. This is someone that Arians has groomed since 2013. At the same time, he's close with Leftwich. He could go to be the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. When I say bidding war, it literally might come down to dollars. How much money Jacksonville or Tampa is willing to pay to keep Kevin Garber. Now, this wouldn't change the play calling thing, right, John? Because we assume, well, we know that Arians said he's likely to call plays here. And I think that's the case because Garber doesn't have any play calling experience outside of a half of a preseason game against the Texans that he called.
Right.
And that's something Bruce Arians said exclusively to PeterReport.com. But we expect Byron Leftwich to also call plays in Jacksonville, right, John?
Right. That's where it gets tricky for Garver and where Brady's return may play into his decision, but he may not have any insight into it. He probably won't. In fact, if this Leftwich thing goes down quickly, he probably won't have time to evaluate what Brady's doing. So you go and you take your chances in a non-play calling role in Jacksonville, which is a pretty unstable environment with very little talent. Or you come back to Tampa Bay where there's tons of talent and you know you're going to probably be groomed to be a play caller in a year, given how Arians has kind of treated this thing. He's going to probably groom that person to eventually be a play caller. He's already done that with Garver, some having him call some in the preseason. You know, you could go back to that role. And then if Brady comes back, obviously you made the right decision. If he doesn't, the Bucs are going to be aggressive for quarterback. We'll talk about that in a little bit here and talk about what some of their options
but
might be.
I think to answer your question, Arians coming out and saying, I would call the plays would be appealing to Brady. I think that's something he threw out there just as, hey, Tom, while you're mulling this over, by the way, just to let you know, if Byron leaves, you're working with me, not some inexperienced guy that you don't have as much of a rapport with in Kevin Garber. So I think that was an interesting little salvo that Bruce Arians put out there in the press conference just to get it out there in public to say, hey, even if Garber is the offensive coordinator, he's really the passing game coordinator because that's really what Byron Leftwich is. Byron Leftwich is the passing game coordinator and the play caller. He has the offensive coordinator title, right? But he does the passing game. Harold Godwin, the offensive line coach, does the run game coordinator.
On the left there, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that would stay the same. Garber would be the passing game coordinator. Godwin would be the run game coordinator. And you would have Bruce Arians, who would be the play caller.
Yeah.
Then you've got Thad Lewis to your right there next to Rashard Perriman. He would move up from the assistant wide receivers coach to the receivers coach. And I've also heard that if Kevin Garber does end up going to Jacksonville, don't be surprised to see a meteoric rise from Thad Lewis from the assistant wide receivers position to the passing game coordinator. Again, this wouldn't change anything with Arians. He's still calling the plays, but in exclusive quotes to PeterReport.com, Bruce Arians told me that Thad Lewis, when he was the coaching intern during the summer of training camp in 2020, he really impressed the Buccaneers. The Bucs Arians decided to keep him on. And then that year, and Thad Lewis is a former quarterback, and he sees a young Byron Leftwich in Thaddeus Lewis. And what Arians told me was during that year in 2020, he made Lewis draw up a game plan for every game, like a parallel game plan. Like, what would you do if you're the OC? I want to see how you would attack the team. And Arians told me it was spot on every week. It's the exact same thing Arians would have done. So that's why this guy is in such high regard. I wrote about it in previous SR's Fab 5. We talked about him yesterday, or I should say on Monday. But if Garver ends up going to Jacksonville, you don't be surprised if Thad Lewis ends up being the quote-unquote offensive coordinator, but he really would just be the passing game coordinator. Harold Godwin still as the running game coordinator, and then Arians would be calling plays.
Right. And I appreciate this $2 super chat from Just Me Pooh Shimmy. Imagine how legendary 27-3 would have been paying. No, I agree with him. And it could have changed. Obviously, it would change where the team's at right now, especially if they had finished the game off or at least stopped the Rams, gone to overtime, and then had a chance. We would have seen what would have happened. And Bulls, Bulls' game plan for that game was horrendous, and we've detailed that at length. Paul wrote an article today that was terrific for PeterReport.com, going into detail with play examples, scheme examples of why this was such a bad game plan. You've probably seen already a lot of reputable people talking about it on Twitter. It was terrible from Todd Bowles. Having said that, and I've been very critical of Bowles, and I do think there are some things he needs to change moving forward, or he's going to fall behind in the NFL the way things are going right now. Having said that about Todd Bowles, I don't think that it means he's a bottom tier defensive coordinator. And I think we need to be careful with this stuff. And I'm just going to take the floor for a second here, Scott, and then you can jump in with your thoughts after. But I think all fans need to understand, and it doesn't matter in the season if they understand, I guess they can complain, and that's part of just being a fan. But as it gets to these points in times and there are tiring changes made, people have to understand, like, the Bucs have gotten so much better on defense since Todd Bowles arrived. That's not disputable. Todd Bowles also leaves a lot to be desired, I think, in certain areas. Would it be, is he the best? Does he deserve, is he the top, he's the highest paid defensive coordinator. Some of that's just when things happen in the league right now. Does he deserve, is he the best defensive coordinator in the NFL? Not in my opinion, no. Is he a top 10 defensive coordinator in the NFL? Now you're talking. That's 10 people, like, out there, period. The odds that he'd leave and somebody better than him would fill his job are just not very high, Scott. Now with Leftwich, I actually think Leftwich has had a better, like, his 3-year progression has been pretty remarkable. Especially people say, oh, Brady does everything. Look, Brady, obviously, when you're as good and has been as good as long as Brady, that is going to have a big role in things. But the fact that Leftwich has been able to work with Brady to get a product that's been statistically the best or second best, basically, offense in the NFL for 2 years, in the top of every category, not to mention to come into a situation with Jameis, and that offense was yards, points, third down percentage, red zone percentage. They were fourth in the NFL. I mean, with a dude who was turning it over 40 times a year and killing your flow, killing everything, killing possessions, like, that's crazy. Like, that you could do that. And that's all we have to go off of with Leftwich. He had that in the 4 games as an interim coordinator in the worst roster I have ever seen in my life in Arizona. That's all we have to measure him by, really. We don't have a whole lot else to go off of. So just looking at what we've seen, I have no idea what he's going to be for Jacksonville if they indeed finish this thing off as we are expecting them to, as it's been reported that they will. But I know that for the Bucs, it is a loss. It doesn't mean it's an insurmountable loss. It doesn't mean Arians can't come in and click with Brady right away. There could be great Brady, that could work, I guess, with him on the headset. It could work. Arians has obviously been a great play caller, but there's no question that it's a loss. Like, there are not a lot of offense coordinators who are doing the things that Leftwich was doing in molding offenses. They molded schemes. Could they have done more things? Sure. The play action stuff gets brought up a lot. That's Arians' thing. That's been since Leftwich was a player. Arians has been doing little play action. Like, that's not a Leftwich thing. So again, like, there's definitely things with Leftwich, like play sequencing. We've talked about a lot. That's an issue with every single. I mean, I'm yelling at the TV with Kyle Shanahan, and he's the best that there is, I think. But play sequencing can be an issue, I think, just in general across the league. But by and large, Leftwich was a very good offensive coordinator, a very good play caller. Like, you can't convince me otherwise. He's
3 years ahead of Kevin Garver or Thad Lewis. I mean, the next guy's in line, right? I mean, he's that much further ahead in terms of the experience that he's got, the play calling acumen, et cetera. So he's just further ahead of the curve. Now, are either one of those guys more talented? I mean, time might tell, but as it stands right now, it's just he's more experienced.
Yeah,
that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and Nate, gentlemen, is Leftwich to Jacksonville not official? I thought it was. Media sure is making it look that way. Yeah, so we said this kind of at the top of the show, Nate, but last night, a lot of people in Jacksonville were saying it. Ben Albright, some other people indicated. Aaron Wilson, Pro Football Network, who's reported for other outlets before for years, also saying it. And then today, it's kind of more confirmation has come out from more local people in Jacksonville that it is trending that way. They're nailing down contractual details. A lot of people have said that today. But then Schefter and Rappaport have kind of said, oh, okay, it's not imminent, but they love Leftwich. He's near the top of their list. And what Scott and I have said is that we think this is like a money situation, basically, is whether it's Eberflus and Leftwich. Jacksonville's trying to pinch the pennies as much as they can and let Leftwich know, hey, we haven't settled anything. Like, we have, we have this other guy we like and blah, blah, blah. But real classy way for Jacksonville to go about things. Sure. That's great. I'm sure that's going to work out awesome. Again, it's probably not going to be on Leftwich. It's just
Jaguars are going to Jaguar.
Goodness gracious, man. Yeah. And not a lot of talent there. Hard for me to trust that situation is going to work out, even if Leftwich is head coaching material, which we just have no clue.
Yeah, and John, you were talking about Leftwich there for a second, right? And just listen, and even Bowles too. Your comments about Bowles. I mean, sacks aren't everything, right? But I mean, let's face it, the Buccaneers have been in the top 5 in sacks over the last 3 years with Todd Bowles at the helm.
And they should be with his pressure, with his blitz rates.
Yes. Yeah. And he's been successful, and the defense has been among the better units.
And they won a Super Bowl
in the league. They won a Super Bowl.
Deal. And they won a Super Bowl because they had an unbelievable, like, he can do this. He changed. Yeah. He did it for a game. He can do it. He didn't do it this year.
He didn't do it this year. But the thing is you're talking about 3 years of 47 plus sacks. Okay. Back in 2017, the Buccaneers, John, how many sacks they had back in 2017?
Not many, because I remember
22.
that was 2. Yeah, were they bottom of the league? Were they last?
2 sacks. They were dead last in the league. Gerald McCoy led them with 6. Clinton McDonald had 5. The edge rushers, Robert Ayers, had 2 sacks. Will Clark had 2.5. Will Clark. Yeah. Ryan Russell had 2 sacks. So it was abysmal.
Wow. So that was before Noah Spencer. Was he hurt that year?
He was hurt that year.
He was hurt that year. Okay.
Yeah, he had a sack in the first game of the 2017 season. Injured his shoulder.
Big draft miss by me. Big draft miss by me, for sure. Architect here, appreciate this $10 super chat. Whose responsibility is to design rub routes and pick schemes to help our role players get open and relieve pressure on banged up O-line? Seems like the elite play callers help out their players. Yes, and I think this is a big point in favor of Leftwich. Like, the way that he came into an offense that is not typically designed at its staple concepts to scheme people open and put in plays and designs and taught them to players. And they came out of that bye last week, and they had done some of this stuff and changed the wide receiver screen game and basically put a whole new emphasis on mesh. They ran mesh out of different alignments, all kinds of stuff like that. But he added to that. Typically, Arians' offenses relied on, we're going to do some stack releases, and we're going to kind of move off of each other on stack releases. And that's how we'll get our mesh. Before we actually get into the secondary, we'll get our mesh there. But Leftwich said, with Brady, I'm sure input as well, said, like, let's move in and let's do some of these concepts moving horizontally, getting players to pick for each other. So I don't know what Architect's overall point is here, but this was actually a big reason why the Bucs were so much more efficient this year, is even though they are not ever going to be the Rams in terms of how they do things with motion and their scheme, Leftwich could not go in and change the whole offense to that degree. What he did was he kept a lot of the root stuff that they have for Arians, which has always been productive and good, and he added some more high efficiency stuff in it. So now you had the rub routes and the mesh stuff, which, by the way, Brashad Perryman game-winning touchdown against the Bills. Boom, that was one. Mike Evans got so many first downs, even over the last few weeks, off of mesh concepts, both the last couple weeks. He put in things like that into the offense and taught them to players in a way that, and coaches did too, that really made it work very well. So that's just a good example of kind of a way that he did have an impact. I wonder,
since 2019, since Byron Leftwich took over as the offensive play caller, and you're right, keep in mind, Tom Brady comes in 2020 and says, hey, let's add this and let's tweak this and let's do this change here. I wonder how much the playbook has changed, what the percentages, 10%, 15%, 20%, 30%. I'd love to know what the number is in terms of the game plan, whatever the volume is, however many plays they typically put in during an entire season, what the percentage is from when Arians first came in and said, here you go, Byron, here's the playbook. We're going to run this. You're going to call it. To what
Paul's coming on with me tomorrow, and he's studied Aaron's playbook and obviously this year's offense too. So he can probably give us a pretty good answer tomorrow on the show. He'll be on with me, and so he can give some insight and thoughts into that. And we'll get Paul's perspective too on the Leftwich loss. I've been throughout the year higher on Leftwich than even Paul is. But he's kind of come around more to my way I think lately. So I'll be curious to see what he says tomorrow. But we'll get his thoughts too, because I know some people disagree in the chat. I know there's some people who think Leftwich isn't very good, and you're certainly entitled to your opinion, but I think, over the years I've kind of expressed why I think that he is a good one.
Just to be clear and fair, long lost leisure. Yes, Byron Leftwich was the offensive coordinator after Mike McCoy was fired. So he was
halfway through the year McCoy got fired.
Halfway through the season, yes. That was Steve Wilkes' first and only season in Arizona. That was right after Arians left. Wilkes was hired as Arians' replacement. He kept Byron Leftwich on as the quarterback's coach because he was still under contract that year. And after Mike McCoy was fired, that's when Byron Leftwich took over the play calling duties for the second half of the season. But he was
That
running Mike McCoy's offense,
yeah,
not
which
Bruce
is
Arians' offense.
which is night and Mike McCoy, one of the worst offensive
Yeah.
and take that over midseason. Not only did you follow just one of the worst, he even can't. I couldn't believe that was the hire at the time. It was just awful. And then not only had Mike McCoy been a total disappointment and him, of late, and then obviously that season, not only do you have to do that, that offense was the least talented group of, that group was brutal. Like that was Josh Rosen, your rookie season, right? I'm pretty sure
I believe so.
Yeah. And my goodness. I mean, Rosen obviously has been like 8 different places now and not worked out. So
yeah, he's done, right?
Yeah,
but I think that's when Bruce Arians said, wow, if you can take over that dumpster fire and get first downs and a couple touchdowns, then holy crap, what can you do in my offense?
Yeah, and so obviously they were bad, but I still think that was the best we've ever seen Rosen look with that.
Yeah.
Zach says, is it possible that Todd Bowles was more interested for the interviews than the game plan? The ending of the game was inexcusable, in my opinion. No, these guys are professionals. Todd Bowles is committed to winning. I know that this is easy for fans to think of on the outside, but I totally stay away from this stuff. Like, has it ever happened in the history of coaching with a coordinator going for a position? Maybe, but Todd Bowles has been through this process a million times. He was going through it last year when they won the Super Bowl.
Right. It happened. Exactly right. It happened with Monty Kiffin. Like there is some realness to that, but
sure.
But this is different here. And the reason why it's different is because you got to keep in mind the number of defensive calls, right, is like that compared to an offensive game plan, which is, that, right? The number of plays that you're going to install versus the number of defensive calls you're going to make and coverage, calls that you're going to make. It's just night and day. There's more to it on offense than there is on defense. And, it's a lot of times offenses don't really run the same play during the game, but you'll see the same coverages run, sometimes even back-to-back plays. We're staying cover 2, whatever. So I don't buy that with Bowles. I don't think that with 42 seconds left, he had his mind, on Minnesota or Las Vegas or wherever. He was trying to get after Matthew Stafford. It was the wrong call.
Yeah, just exactly right. That's all that it was. I mean, just was a bad game plan. I don't think there's any. I mean, Bowles is, like I said, respected, upstanding dude. And I want to get to Greg DeCruz's question because it is a good question. But first, I got to tell people about Underdog Fantasy because football season is winding down, but there's still these playoff games coming up. Right now, you can double your first deposit with the promo code PEWTER, PEWTER on Underdog Fantasy. I mean, we're talking about an exceptional offer here, folks. Like, this is up to $100. You can get double your first deposit. Then you can go in and do some of these pick 2s, pick 3s on player stat lines, over under on player stat lines. Great way to get some money in your pocket and have fun to it. It kind of ups the ante for these games a little bit, adds a layer of intrigue and fun. You're cheering for guys to get a catch. You're cheering for this. They got a couple more yards for this guy. It's a blast, honestly, to use Underdog Fantasy. Their website is great. Their app is great. They're easy to use. The interface is clean. It's awesome. Use this promo code PEWTER. The link is in the YouTube description as well. If you're looking, how do I get to that? Just click on that link in the YouTube description. It'll take you there. I promise you, folks, this is one you're going to want to sign up for. The playoff games this week, basketball, hockey, if you're into it, all of it. Like, they have it all. They have fights too. They have the fights. I think the lines of the fights too that go in there. That's not even my thing, but I saw people talking about it. So check out Underdog Fantasy. Get yourself interested, involved in all that stuff. It's really good stuff, and I don't think you'll regret checking that out for sure. All right, let me get to Greg's question here because I wanted to pull it up. Let me see if I can find it again. Maybe the defense needs a fresh voice. There's no excuse for not being ready to execute a play. It's their third season in the same system. This is a valid question, in my opinion. Bowles, to me, is definitely a good defensive coordinator. Like, he's good. I don't think he's great. I think some people call him the best in the league. That, to me, is crazy. I think he's overrated if you want to go by that. I still think hard to find I wouldn't want to. It's kind of like Mike Tomlin for me. Like, at this point, Mike Tomlin's done some good things.
Yeah.
I am not sure that he's ever going to turn the Steelers around based on some of his hiring practices. But I also think that there's a high chance somebody else could be way worse. And that drags your organization down quickly. Yeah. Now, with DC, less of a huge deal, but still a deal. Like, it still matters. And so I do think this is a part of it with Bulls. Like, do the players need a different voice? do they need some different things conceptually? Because right now it feels like part of playing defense is, have you gotten figured out yet? And it felt like this year they got figured out a lot. Like, Bowles going to blitz a ton. There's only so many different blitzes you can have. Like, at some point you run up against the good quarterbacks and the Matt Staffords and the Josh Allens and those kind of quarterbacks, the Dak Prescotts, those guys light you up. And that's where it gets to be a concern for me with Bowles. Is next year's schedule is very hard. I plan to do a story about this in the coming days. And I think that the way his defense is played against top quarterbacks, because he relies on blitzing to get home, and then there's too many spot dropping coverages for today's NFL. I'm concerned that it may have run its course in Tampa, where even if he's good, he may be stuck in what he's doing in Tampa. And this is going to be a huge offseason for him to have to kind of evolve and grow in complexity with some of the things that he's done. There was talk that he'd like to do that this season with more man coverage, and at times he did do it this past season, but he picked odd times not to do it. And I hope we do get him. I know people have asked, why hasn't he been available? Why haven't he gotten any questions? I mean, they typically aren't after a game. Like, we have to wait until that Thursday before the next game to get the coordinators.
There's a good chance that we're not going to get Todd Bowles.
We might not get him till, I don't know,
much later, like till OTAs or something. I mean, there's that real possibility. You mentioned the 2022 opponents, John. I don't have a graphic for it, but guess who one of those quarterbacks is going to be next year? Matthew Stafford. They're playing the Rams for a fifth straight time over 4 years. It's crazy. 2019, 2020, 2021, a couple times, and now 2022. They're also set to play Baltimore, Joe Burrow and the Bengals, maybe Aaron Rodgers if he's still with the Packers, but they'll be playing the Packers. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City.
Yeah.
And then you've got Ippy's back with Cleveland. You'd have Baker Mayfield.
I was going to say the whole AFC North. I mean, not the whole, but Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson.
Prescott. Yeah, Dak Prescott with Dallas. So
it doesn't get easier.
Yeah,
the division might be easy.
Right. Yeah.
The division looks rough, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, we're still going to stick with.
Boy, we got our first. This is our first draft question, Scott. Oh, the
first
whole
draft
year,
question.
I think.
Yep, the first draft question. Treylon Burks or Jameson Williams? Boy, that's interesting. Two bigger wide receivers. Burks is bigger than Williams.
Jameson Williams, he's 6 foot.
Yeah, but he's the
right.
Yeah, but Treylon Burks is a big guy. I like Burks.
The
Arkansas wide receiver. And now we're talking about some underclassmen here. And
Williams listed at 6'2" at least.
Yeah,
I did not think
just
he was
a little skinnier than he is than Burks.
Burks is like 215, I think. I know he's listed heavier, but he's not.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
So the great thing is we're going to have Senior Bowl coverage. Those guys won't be at the Senior Bowl because they are underclassmen. But John Ledyard, Casey Hudson, and Matt Matera are going to be live in Mobile all next week with Senior Bowl coverage podcasts.
Right.
So
and I'll have some stuff coming out too. It might not be every position, like full previews of every position, but I'm watching right now. I started looking at wide receivers today and kind of looking at ones who check the boxes. And I'm just going to publish on our site, sometime before the Senior Bowl, throughout the days of the Senior Bowl. Here's the names to watch. Here's the size, and here's the speed requirements. And if you're looking at wide receivers, for example, which I know Bucs fans are going to be, they should be. I'm excited that this is like a top need, I think, going into the draft for the Bucs, because it's a fun position to look at. And if you look at what the Bucs have done, speed, even Tyler Johnson, who we don't think is fast, they were like, oh no, we had good times on him when we, he never ran the 40, but we had good times on when we ran our metrics on his mile per hour thing when he was on tape or whatever. Okay, cool. But anyway, like they prioritize speed. Like if they don't think a guy's fast, they won't draft him. If he tests slow, they won't draft him. So that's a big one to watch. He mentioned, I think Long Lost Glazer mentioned two perfect ones there. Like Jameson Williams will be on the radar, fast. And big enough probably to be on the radar. What's the injury situation? That'll be big. And then Treylon Burks is like, if his tape checks out, and the character and all that, physically, if they could, like, that's what they want. So the huge receiver who is won vertically throughout college. What exactly is he going to run? Everybody thinks he's really fast.
And he did a lot of damage in the slot. And the thing is keep in mind, the Bucs have been let down by some of these smaller receivers. So when John says fast, don't necessarily think Scotty Miller. Don't necessarily think Jalen Darden, because they got some small guys that honestly they're very frustrated with.
I was going to say, you could sense Aaron's frustration this season. Like he wants big dudes who are going to bully people, like in the run game.
And he wants fast big guys, not big guys like Tyler Johnson, who, is not overly big. He's 6'1". He's built similar to Chris Godwin. Just Chris Godwin's a lot more physical. And the reason why I mentioned Godwin is obviously he's out with an ACL. John and I believe, I don't put words in your mouth, but I think I speak for you and say that we believe Godwin will be back in Tampa.
Correct.
Will come to a deal, right?
We feel very confident about that.
So having said that, Chris Godwin, because he plays that physical slot receiver position that is critical for the Bucs run blocking, as well as running down the middle of the seam against nickel corners, linebackers, safeties, work in the middle of the field, where he does take a beating, a la the Saints game where he got his knee taken out. They're going to have to find another guy that can play inside and out. And one of those guys might be Dontario Drummond from Ole Miss. He's going to be at the Senior Bowl. That's a name to keep an eye on, and we'll see. He's kind of got some sneaky speed about him, right? I mean, even Mike Evans does not look like he's a burner, but just ask Jalen Ramsey how fast he is, right? I mean, he roasted Ramsey. So I think that they're going to want a bigger bodied receiver that has some wheels and someone that can play inside and out. Outside, when Chris Godwin's healthy, playing that flanker position that Antonio Brown played, the Z wide receiver.
Yeah.
But then also having the ability to go inside and play some slot in case something happens to Chris Godwin, because he's dealt with a broken finger. He's dealt with concussions. He's dealt with knee injuries. He's dealt with hamstring injuries. He's just a physical player that throws his body around, and you want to be able to not have that position come to the screeching halt, John, that it did when Tyler Johnson had to take over.
You're right. That will be a priority for them. Flexibility, but also a guy that could play inside. Another guy, Jalen Tolbert, who's going to be at the Senior Bowl, South Alabama. He'll be playing at home right there in Mobile, where he was born and raised. He's 6'3", 195. He's got a great body type. He definitely won vertically in college. You can knock the level of competition, but then Tennessee, like he goes against Tennessee and he's lighting them up. He's producing, he's running pivot routes and getting open. I have questions for sure. What's his athleticism actually like? There's some good yak plays on tape, but a lot of it's just running around bad angles more than actually making people miss and running through people.
Right.
So I want to see some things more from Tolbert against better competition, but he's one. And then Romeo Dobbs from Nevada, 6'2", 200, is a speed guy. One down the field a lot, played with Carson Strong.
Those are two guys. Like Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah, mid-round guys that I think we'll have our eyes on at the Senior Bowl here. Okay, let's get back to the Bucs here quickly, although I need to touch on Godwin too. But Zach Jarvis with the $20 super chat. Thank you, Zach. Thank you. If Brady retires, what do you think our record will be next season? Also, I think we need to get younger and faster in the trenches on defense. We need to get pressure with 4 instead of blitzing so much. Love the content. We're going to talk about the second part of this one tomorrow on the podcast, Zach. So tune in tomorrow and we will touch on the second part of this. How can they get pressure with 4? Because you're exactly right, Zach.
And Mark Fisher, we see your question too. Tomorrow we'll kind of get into the defensive line aspect and all of that too. We're going to stick with quarterbacks.
Let's talk about if Brady retires, because and then that
all right, John. Let's put ourselves on the spot here. As of right now, do you think Tom Brady retires, or does he come back for the final year of his contract?
I'm going to stick with my answer that I think he comes back, but I am less confident than everybody's less confident than they were 2 weeks ago when nobody thought this was even a thing. I'm less confident than I was a couple days ago. Like, he comes out of the game and he's like, I haven't even thought about it, guys. And I'm like, all right, he just doesn't want to tell anybody yet. That's fine. And then he goes on his Let's Go podcast and it's clear he has thought about it. He has thought about it an awful lot. So it's like, here's all the philosophical reasons why I think retirement could be a very healthy endeavor for me. Like, it was, blocks and blocks of quotes about why he thinks it'd be. So he's clearly thought about it a lot. And there's a lot of people that say, once you've thought about it a lot, you're kind of already 1 foot out the door. And Brady's never done anything with 1 foot out the door. So I am curious to see what happens in the coming weeks. Having said that, I could definitely see Brady thinking along those lines and then being like, I got one more in me. And Gronk, I could see saying the same thing. Now, Gronk told TMZ today, right now, if I had to make a decision, I would retire. And so I was like, wow, that's so he may be actually leaning toward retirement, but he said, we'll see in a couple of weeks. I'm going to get my body right. He's like, I felt that way before, then wanted to come back. And so it's not necessarily saying anything, but at the same time, I think it's worth noting. And I think that it all will play into, Brady's decision is going to be almost all people ask Leftwich, Godwin, Gronk, like what does that play into Brady's decision? To me, will be almost all family. The Bucs
Yes,
are going
I
to
agree.
have a good roster, and they're these guys are they're not going to like let the roster go if Brady's coming back.
Right.
So they're going to bring back Godwin and Carlton, and they're going to go all in for a Super Bowl. Like
Right.
that's, yeah, I don't think he needs to know that like he would, like the Packers, for example, who are like 40 million over the cap. The Bucs are under the cap considerably. Like they have space. Like they're not the same situations where Rodgers like, I got to know, like, are we going all in? Are you guys giving Devontae the bag? And are we going all in? Like Brady knows that the Bucs are all in. Like he knows that. So
yeah,
I don't know how much he needs to hear from the Bucs. I think he just needs to like just decide with his family what's the best thing. And Gronk maybe has a small role in that, but Brady's decision will probably have a big effect on Gronk, I would imagine.
Here's what I think. I thought he was coming back. I'm actually leaning towards Brady retiring.
Wow.
I am. And I'll tell you why. Because he does not want, because here's the thing, if he comes back for next year, right? And he's even said he wants to play to 45, right? That's been one of the kind of the goals for him. So he would be checking that box. But you can be assured that next year there would be an element of distraction because it really would be the victory tour. It'd be the victory lap. It'd be the farewell tour, whatever you want to call it. And there would be so many questions from the national media on a regular basis for every game. And I just think that Tom Brady went through that to a degree, John, in the New England game when he went back to New England. He did not play his best. The Buccaneers eked out a win. And I just think he got a little overwhelmed in that game. And I
saw his life flash before his eyes with
to a degree
giving up 10 pressures.
Yeah. So to a degree, so I don't know that he wants to kind of go through that because this is a guy that loves to play distraction-free football, to focus on the game. And I just don't know if he would want to be under the microscope for 17 weeks. That this is your last game. This is your last divisional game. This is your last game here, your last game there. This is your last home game. I just don't know if he would want to have to kind of deal with that while preparing to beat a team that is, gunning for him in the Buccaneers. Now, the other thing too is let's keep this in mind that I touched on this a little bit on Monday. With Tom Brady, the roster was good enough to get Brady to come to Tampa, but he wasn't done. His first phone call was to pick up the phone. Rob Gronkowski, hey, you want to come out of retirement and join me in Tampa? Great. Hang on. Let me put you on with Jason Light. Jason, you got to trade for this guy, right? Then it was, hey, Jason, I want Leonard Fournette. Jason, we probably need to get Antonio Brown on the team too. What I'm saying is the Bucs roster wasn't done, right? He had to add more pieces. I think before Brady wants to commit to coming back, he wants to see a Super Bowl caliber roster. He wants to say, what's the blueprint? How are we going to get to the Super Bowl? Because I'm not coming back just to win the NFC South. I'm not coming back to win 11 games or 13 games. I'm coming back to win a Super Bowl. That's my goal. Show me the Super Bowl roster. And quite frankly, I don't know if the Buccaneers are going to be able to construct one this year because some of the premium players they had, like Jason Pierre-Paul 2 years ago, was a Pro Bowler, 9.5 sacks, 2 interceptions.
But he wasn't. But
well,
I know he technically was, but
he was better then than he was last year, right?
For sure.
And you're not going to get that 2020 version of Jason Pierre-Paul in 2022, not at age 33.
Yeah. So, I guess I definitely see it different then because I definitely think that he thinks the Bucs have a good, like the rosters there, especially look at the NFC. I mean, there's just like uncertainty all over the place right now. And we got a long way to go. I mean, it's hard to know.
And see, that's the thing. I don't think Brady's leaving to go anywhere. I just think that if the options are family and hanging it up and you know what, I went out on top, Aaron Rodgers, have the damn MVP. I don't give a shit. But I was the best quarterback this year. I know it. The statistics say it. I broke every single record. I'm going out on top. Yeah. And we tried and gave it our best. And
that part definitely believable to me. Yeah, for sure. So, okay. What are plan Bs then? If Brady does decide to walk away, let's just go down that path. I know Bucs fans don't want to go down that path. First, we're going to talk about options, but this is the only guy that is going to put you on the same level. Like, no, there's not going to be as positive a projection about the Bucs next season, even if the NFC's down as a whole, because all the changes that look like they're coming. there's not going to be as positive a projection with the Bucs next
Right.
season without Brady, unless this guy's maybe around Aaron Rodgers.
And
we'll have to see. This is an interesting one. Today, I listened to Andrew Brandt was on, who used to be as a executive with the Packers, was on Rich Eisen's show, and he was talking about the Rodgers situation. And he thinks, even though Rodgers and the Packers have reached an amicable place, that the Packers are still looking at the situation. Like, Rodgers doesn't want to go year to year. Like, he wants to, if he's going to keep playing, he wants to know that there's like some security in like what he's doing, and that. And meanwhile, the Packers are in year 3 of Jordan Love, something like that. So like they want to kind of know
3, right?
Yeah, they want to know what's going on with Jordan Love, which
it's a little bit different, right? I mean, when you're talking about a quarterback drafted in the top 15, top 20,
it was 20. It was they traded to like 25,
right.
I think. I believe
it's different than Kyle Trask, who was last pick in the second round, which is essentially totally a third rounder.
Yeah, totally different. No question about it. And the Packers need to weigh all of those things. So we'll see kind of how that situation plays out with him. Brandt finished the segment with Eisen as somebody who's obviously dialed in to a degree. And he said he thinks that they're going to end up trading Aaron Rodgers for something. Now,
makes sense.
The compensation won't matter to the Bucs. Like they feel like they have the roster. If they get their quarterback and it's that guy, then they're going to feel great. So it'll be an option. Do I think it's likely? We have no clue at this point. We don't know. Denver, they've talked about.
And here's
There's
the
other
thing.
Places that have talked about Rodgers.
Realistically speaking, well, here's the problem. Realistically speaking, I don't know that the Packers think that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender next year with Jordan Love. They're going to be in a bit of a rebuilding situation. You don't want to sit there and wave the white flag by any means, throw in the towel. But listen, I mean, going from Aaron Rodgers, you're a Super Bowl contender, to Jordan Love, you're not. Would they trade him within the conference to the Buccaneers? Right. That's one question. The other thing is guess who the Bucs are playing next year? The Packers.
Yep.
Do you want to see Aaron Rodgers against the Packers?
There's a couple layers to
Green
this.
Bay.
There's a couple layers to this. The Bucs' first round picks are not going to be that valuable. Other teams, they're going to be more valuable. Denver's first round picks are going to be more valuable, probably. There's a higher likelihood. Now, if the Bucs are trading future first round picks for Aaron Rodgers, and they're getting Aaron Rodgers, again, I don't know that those first round picks are going to be that high in the draft. So that's going to have to be something they weigh in. If the Denver does it, there might be a little bit higher in the draft. Denver's not as good a roster as Tampa Bay, but it's still, wherever you trade Aaron Rodgers, you're probably, so what do you want back in return? Do you want some type, players trades like that are very odd in today's NFL. Most of the time it is draft compensation, especially if they're going with Jordan Love at quarterback. It's like, okay, we need draft compensation. Here's an interesting part of this, Scott, is that the third round picks that the Bucs are going to get if Byron Leftwich is hired as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, and then if Bowles were to be hired too, they'd obviously get 2 more. But Leftwich, they'll get
actually, that's not the case. Just to clarify, because I thought that was the case too. So if Byron Leftwich leaves, or Todd Bowles, whoever leaves first, the Buccaneers get a third round compensatory pick this year and also next year. If in the same year, another minority executive or coach, in this case, Todd Bowles, per your suggestion, John, if Bowles leaves, they would only get 1 additional third rounder, and that would be 3 years from now. So the Buccaneers the Buccaneers would get a third round compensatory pick for Leftwich this year in 2022, next year in 2023, and then Bowles' third rounder would be in 2024. I thought they would get 2 more, but that's not the case. It's 1, 2, and 3.
Either way, since Leftwich is the only one likely to be gone, then they will probably get. So those thirds can be used as incentives. What I'm trying to say, in terms of trading, you can trade those comp picks now. So now those could be used in a different way. And they could be a possibility in terms of creating a trade. We are laying this out. Everybody understands, like, this is like none of these trades, your ideal trade scenario is almost always not going to happen. So we got to start from that standpoint. Like we're dreaming here. And the Packers, I think the Bucs, the one part I say confident is the Bucs are not going to just be like, we're going with Trask and Gabbert next year, like with this roster. Like if that ends up happening, I don't know if they're going to cry like about it, or guys are going to quit playing.
We'll try to make it work, but it's
You're not. But this is like, that would be there. Somebody else will be in the mix here. Now Rodgers is the pipe dream, but it's probably more unlikely than not. Just because it's hard to do those things. Maybe it does. Maybe he is intrigued in Tampa Bay. Maybe he doesn't want to follow Brady's act and then be compared to him for the rest of it. There's a lot of layers to it. The
Well,
other
the other
options
thing
that
is
could
they both were
exist.
number 12, right? So
Yeah, that's true too. And I don't know what they're going to do with number 12 if
yeah,
Brady retires. But the other thing that's interesting about this, Scott, is who are the other options for the Bucs? If you look
Kyle
around the
Trask.
league, Russell Wilson, that's a name that some people I've already seen people
Yeah,
on Twitter talk about.
he's
Now,
not a fit.
he doesn't feel like a fit to me either
Yeah,
because he loves being up north and he loves big cities.
right.
That's kind of he's like, oh, I'll go to New York. The Giants suck, yeah, but I'm in New York, so like
Yep,
he has weird priorities, and I don't know that he would align with Leverage. I will just
yep.
say this though, stylistically, I would actually really want to see this thing happen because there's no quarterback in the league who loves throwing vertically down the field on the
That's true.
outside of the numbers more than Russell Wilson. It would be a
That's true.
dream in that way.
Yeah,
He won't throw to the middle of the field at all, though.
yeah,
And,
he won't though.
Arians, even though he loves the
I
outside
was getting ready
shots,
to say
yeah,
that's the thing is to see him try to throw the middle of the field rather than the hashes. That would be
he'd
a
take a lot of
difficult thing.
sacks in that offense.
He'd take
Too,
a bunch of
but
sacks, and
we
the
get
thing
about
too is
50 deep balls a year, Scott.
yeah,
That would be unreal.
he's a pocket passer, but he's also not. And the fact that he's not 6'4", 6'5", I think would drive Arians nuts. I just you look
Yeah.
at the quarterbacks that I think maybe the shortest
He is a
quarterback
type. He's a type, yeah.
Was Kelly
Griffin?
Stouffer maybe back in the day,
okay,
back in
in the day.
Cleveland, right? I mean, it's Ben Roethlisberger, it's Jameis
Yeah.
Winston,
He is a type.
it's
I mean, Stafford is like
Andrew
his
Luck,
quarterback. Yeah.
yeah, Peyton
If he could
Manning,
create it, it would be like Josh Allen, Matt Stafford types. I mean, he doesn't really care about the athleticism now that he's seen Josh Allen do what he's done. He's so the Mahomes, Allen, Stafford,
yeah,
somewhere on that's like his prototype. So yeah, I mean,
yeah,
so that's one option that I don't think is going to happen, but I know
I
people will
agree.
put it out there. I think that one's a pipe dream for sure, even probably less likely than Rodgers. Plus, it sounds like he might stay.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, this is kind of Vikings he's 1 year left on his deal. Vikings just hired an analytics background general manager who is almost certainly going to try. I mean, first rule of numbers, guys, is you trade players who aren't going to get you to the promised land that are on expiring contracts while they still have some value, and he can get value for Cousins. He's going to get it. So Cousins is almost certain to get traded this offseason, in my opinion. Could it be to the Bucs? Maybe. There's some things that fit. He does throw the football down the field pretty well, and Arians cares about that. But he just doesn't seem like a gamer. I just don't know if that's going to annoy Arians that he doesn't seem like a gamer.
Yeah, and I think same thing true about Derek Carr. I've been fond of Derek Carr's game. It just he's had a lot of years to work with Gruden and see what you want by Gruden, but he's gotten the best out of some quarterbacks. Brian Griese had his best years under Gruden. Brad Johnson had his best years under Gruden. Gruden is not great at developing young quarterbacks. Ask Chris Sims, right? Ask Sean King. But established veteran quarterbacks, like he inherited Derek Carr. And, Carr's been good, but not great. And so I just don't know about that fit either. So those are some names out there. But unless some more of these options present themselves, and with some of these coaching changes, we'll see. But it might be a situation too where, John, you look at Sam Darnold, right? I mean, he was available, and then Matt Rule took the cheese, right, and got snapped on his neck like a rat in a trap, right? I mean, Sam Darnold's not the answer. So just because quarterbacks are available doesn't mean they're the right call.
Yeah.
But some of those guys we mentioned are more the name veteran quarterbacks out there, and
there's some guys who aren't fits at all. Jimmy Garoppolo would be an example. Not a fit whatsoever. I can't see there being any interest there. There's some guys like that, and then there's always, Jameis, Ryan, Fitzpatrick.
I don't think Deshaun Watson, his situation's still in limbo.
No, yeah.
So,
So that's just a total unknown. You don't think Jameis and Fitzpatrick, maybe a package deal, come back, 4-man quarterback room? Fitzpatrick, Jameis,
oh my God,
Gabbert, and Trask. Group that would be unbelievable. This is there's another good question super chat earlier. I'm sorry I passed it and I've missed like half.
I think I pulled them up here.
Sorry.
I think we've gotten them all.
Okay, did we get one? There was one about like a surprise free agent the Bucs could lose earlier. I forget who it was, but anyway, I think Ryan Jensen would probably be a surprise. I mean, I think Godwin and Carlton Davis.
Keep an eye on Denver. That would be the situation there. I don't know that. I don't know Denver's for Ryan Jensen. He's a Colorado native.
Really? They just drafted Lloyd Cushenberry. He played well this past year. So maybe I don't know.
Think it happens,
there's a lot of teams. It could be. But anyway, Jensen, he could be one that that go. I mean, just because he's going to probably want 10.5 to 12.5, and
Yeah.
the Bucs are already committed financially to 2 guys and will be to Wirfs, and
Yeah.
Jensen's going to be
I'd say
31 in May, and
it
the volume
really
breaks down.
it really depends, right? I mean, if the chain reaction is such, the Bucs lose a ton of coaches, if Brady retires, if they're essentially stuck with Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask and developing and going with a little bit younger at quarterback and trying to get Trask ready sooner rather than later, I don't want to say you could see a youth movement, but it's like they could weigh the benefits of it and say, well, let's just get this train started with Hainsey and develop elsewhere and kind of try to reload, not necessarily for 2022, but maybe 2023 or 24. The only problem is listen, Bruce Arians is under contract for 2 more years. He's 69, he'll be 70 this year. So Bruce is going to want to get another shot at the ring or two. Bruce does not want to like go downhill at this stage. He wants to go out swinging on top.
That's exactly right. That's why I say like Brady's not like it's just comparing the situations. LaFleur is young. He's probably going to be in Green Bay for forever. The rate he's going, like they have another quarterback there. That's just a totally different situation when you're comparing Green Bay to Tampa Bay. Like he knows Arians' age. He knows the roster. He knows they kicked the can down the road last year. He knows they're all in right now. They're under the cap. They have flexibility to make moves.
This is a great question from Trevor Sikkema here, right?
Trevor says, from Trevor, he says, would you trade all your draft picks for the next 2 years for Patrick Mahomes?
The Chiefs wouldn't even do that.
To me. Yeah, they wouldn't do it.
The Chiefs wouldn't even do it. There's no way.
But I would trade him. Heck yeah, I'd trade him. You kidding me?
Oh, yeah, I would for sure. But the Chiefs wouldn't. Now, here's the thing. Let me ask you this, John. How many first-round picks, and you can even throw second-rounders in there, but so let's say this. How many first- and second-round picks would it take to pry Patrick Mahomes from Kansas City? How many years worth? If you had a team that said, we're going to trade you our first and second round pick for X amount of years, it's a blank check. You fill in the blank. How many would it take for Kansas City to really maybe say, okay, let's do it?
I don't think there's a scenario which Kansas City would consider it. You could say 10 years, and I don't think, because you know what you have is probably multiple championships in the next 10 years.
10 years would be the one that gives Kansas City pause where they actually have to consider it, right?
And I don't think they're alone. I mean, it is so hard to get a quarterback that's special that, like, once you have him, there's really nothing. Like even the Bills, Josh Allen hasn't won anything, quote unquote. But, like, dude, you're not trading that guy for anything. Like, you're just not. Elliot, would you like to see Arians lure a big bet out of retirement if Brady retires? I would honestly probably quit. This is probably the one thing to make me quit View Reports. I would just be like, I'm done. Like, I would not watch that. I would not be able to watch that. That would be the worst possible.
Yeah.
That'd be horrible.
People cooked, right?
Yeah, people were. I'm looking at the chat. I'm trying to catch up. People are very down on the Cousins idea. And higher on I think there's some Carr fan, like there's some people who like I could live with that. Now they kind of had some interest in Carr right before the Brady thing. Like they weren't out on Carr like during that time, right?
He was an option. He was an option on the table.
He just came off his best year. He's played better the last 2 years. He can throw the ball down the field, absolutely. He can get passive at times in games, I think, and get a little gun shy. And teams say that when we pressure him, he falls apart. You've seen multiple players say this now over the years. There's some truth to it, maybe, but like I think it's honestly he's played fine at times under pressure. You know, he would be not the ceiling of Brady, obviously, but a better option than Cousins, in my opinion.
Well, the other thing too is the 49ers, if they win it all or if they lose, are they going to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? Is Jimmy G an option? Right?
I mean, that's why I said Jimmy G to me is like the worst schematic fit in the world. Like everything he throws is schemed open underneath.
Yeah, nobody
run
wants
after
Jimmy
catch.
G. Even the 49ers don't.
Big time throws this season. I think he has 8 on like the whole year. Brady had that in like some single games. Like they're just like polar opposite in that way. So I don't see Jimmy being a fit at all.
With this O-line is deadly.
I mean, I get like I would be here for the chaos of Russell Wilson in this Bucs system, like holding the ball longer, drops, like it would be
some friction, especially with Arians as the play caller, right? I mean, that's even more like egregious than if Arians just chilling on the sidelines with Byron calling the plays and having to deal, with Russell Wilson because
Arians would be up a tree.
Say what you want about Arians, but he's a very structured type of. He wants a pocket passer. He's got throwing lanes he creates open with these routes and stuff. So it's very much a structure-based offense. This is not whereas Russell Wilson's more of an improvisational sandlot type player. That would be a very interesting, delicate, match right there.
Right,
John,
for sure.
you mentioned Josh Allen, not our Josh Allen, but the Bills' Josh Allen, a couple of minutes ago. And the one thing that I'm going to tell you is I've got a new Manscaped read, and we're going to be doing that right now. And I did see that that there was a mention of the Bills here. So there's nothing like the NFL playoffs. Move over, Bills Mafia. It's time for Balls Mafia with the sponsors of today's show, Manscaped. They're here to remind you that the recipe for success to the playoffs is simple. It's protect your franchise quarter balls. The road to the Super Bowl is never easy, but the road to your Super Bowls is only a few clicks away. Take the Lambeau leap and join over 4 million men worldwide, including John and myself, who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer. It's saving 20% off your Manscaped purchase plus free shipping if you use the promo code PEWTER20. Now, this year, take your package to the next level with their Performance Package 4.0 and their brand new ultra premium body wash, the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. Inside the Performance Package 4.0, you're going to be getting a lot of things. You're going to be getting the signature Lawnmower 4.0, the electric trimmers designed to trim hair around the loose skin down there. And the advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate nuts. It also comes equipped with a 4,000K LED spotlight. I don't have mine handy. It just Manscaped yesterday. It's in the bathroom.
Thanks for letting us know, though.
Yeah, but what I do have is this, which is this is the Weed Whacker, and the Weed Whacker is the best nose hair and ear hair trimmer. You stick it up there, turn it on, and it does the job for you. No snags, no pulls. It's an easy way to get rid of nose hair in a second. And in addition to both of those items, you also get the Shed, which is the awesome leather travel case to keep all of your Manscaped goodies in addition to the Crop Reviver and the Crop Preserver. These formulations are fantastic for your balls, keeps them smooth, feeling good, and more important, smelling good. What else am I forgetting? The boxer briefs, John. The boxer briefs from Manscaped. I've got some on actually today. They're the most comfortable pair of boxer briefs that I have. They just are. They're a fantastic feel, and they're non-chafing, which is great after you're done with your manscaping. Put these bad boys on, everything feels nice and smooth. So to get all of this, you want to go to manscaped.com, use the promo code PEWTER20 to save 20% and also get free shipping. And I'm also going to throw in some Pewter Report t-shirt for you if you want. Actually, I'm going to give you two. I'm going to give you two Pewter Report t-shirts, all right?
Wow.
Because we need to sell 3 more Manscaped items by the end of the month. So I'm just putting that out there. You're going to get 2 Pewter Report shirts, either the pewter, the black, or the white, and you can determine which 2 you want. So just let me know what size and what colors you want. And what I want you to do is, after you place your order on Manscaped using the promo code PEWTER20, you're going to forward me the email receipt you're going to get. It's got your address on it, which I need to send you the free shirts, but it doesn't have any of your financial information, which I don't want. So forward me that receipt. Make this purchase before the end of the month. A couple days left. PEWTER20 on manscaped.com, and then let me know what color shirts you want: pewter or gray, white or black. Those are your 3 choices. So let me know about those, and we'll get that sent out to you. You can email me at sr@pewterreport.com, sr@pewterreport.com.
Truly is a game-changing purchase. Nate says, guys, I can't afford any more of your sponsors, Ford's Garage, Celsius, and I did get the Manscaped Weed Whacker. It's pretty awesome. That. Glad to hear it, Nate. It really is. It's a game-changer product. There's no question about it. Real quick, we'll finish things off here. Leo, $5 super chat. Thoughts on Brady to the 49ers? It's dumb, right? I'd also love AB to go to the Ravens. He'll be calling Lamar glorified running back by week 5. Hashtag mental wealth. The AV stuff, I'm not even touching that. It's out of control. Brady to the 49ers, no, that's not gonna happen. Brady's under contract, so some people are maybe getting that mixed, but
it's
Brady's
Tampa Bay or retirement.
Yeah, it's Tampa Bay, right, exactly. So we'll see what happens with that, obviously. And I don't know if we got another. I don't think that's it for super chats. I think we're good, but that this was kind of, I think we covered all the ground we want to cover. Went a little bit long on today's show. But
here's one thing too, right? So I didn't get to this. If for example, Larry Foote leaves, right? Who would take over as the outside linebackers coach? James Betcher, who was the outside linebackers coach under Bruce Arians from 2013 to 2014. And then took over as the defensive coordinator when Todd Bowles left to become the Jets head coach. So Betcher was the outside linebackers coach, actually dating back to 2012 in Indianapolis with Arians. So he's got outside linebacker experience. After Arians retired, he went on to have kind of 2 nondescript years with the New York Giants as their defensive coordinator under Pat Shurmur. Didn't go too well, didn't have the talent, obviously, that he had in Arizona. Guys like Patrick Peterson, Calais Campbell, etc. But Betcher would be the outside linebackers coach in Tampa. What is he doing now? He is the senior defensive assistant and run game specialist for the 49ers. So he's going to be busy on Sunday trying to stop Cam Akers, Sony Michel.
Defensive run games, but defensive
run game specialist. Correct.
Interesting. All right. Well, there you go, James Betcher. That's the name to watch for sure. So we'll keep you up. We'll keep you up to date as we always do. PewterReport.com right now is having. This might be our best traffic day ever, Scott. This month has been our best traffic month ever.
John, are we doing the mock draft tomorrow? It's ready. Should we do it? Should we do it tomorrow?
Oh yeah, mock draft is running tomorrow, right? On the website.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So
I think so.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's ready to go. I'm just saying. Do you want to? All right,
I think the people are ready. They're ready to turn the page on this Rams game and Todd Bowles, and they're ready.
Okay, so here's the thing. I've got an extra 3rd round compensatory pick in there, assuming they're going to lose Byron Leftwich. So we'll probably put the mock draft out in the afternoon, just to make sure that it's not messed up by either Leftwich staying or Leftwich going. Right. Because right now I've got that extra 3rd round compensatory pick in there. So look for it in the afternoon. We'll have plenty of Bucs content later tonight. Tomorrow morning on PewterReport.com.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be great stuff. No question about it. And tomorrow on the podcast, Paul Atwell and I coming at you 4 p.m. Eastern. We will have some good we're going to talk scheme going into the offseason, what it looks like and what players and roles on the team need to be updated. I saw some of that in my Bucs briefing today. If you haven't checked that out at PewterReport.com.
Great Bucs briefing.
I wrote about 6 roster holes that need to be filled going into the offseason. Scott and I are going to, Paul and I are going to touch on those tomorrow within the context of the Bucs scheme and kind of where the direction the team are headed. But there's 6 roles that we think at least need to change, and we'll get some of Paul's thoughts on some of the stuff we've been talking about with Byron Leftwich as well. So looking forward to that. Thanks everybody for tuning in and appreciate y'all. We'll catch you again next time on another edition of the Pewter Report podcast.